Hello, hello. Hopefully, that's this all set up and good to go and stuff. Except, of course, there is no camera. Um, why? Why would that? Why would that work? That would be silly. Ta-da! We're on, so it's all good. So let's just go through then and make sure that that's not happened on every single tab that I've got up and running. Let's just change to something fairly nondescript in the background. Okay, it's working on that one. We're all good. How are we all? If you're in chat, stop, pop something in the comments, say hello. Let me know you're here. Because this is hopefully the very last of these streams where I don't have an option to play the game. Because I did a bit of a tidy out this week, and I have relocated, yes, because I lose things, my M.2 drive. So at some point this weekend, the M.2 is going in, we are reinstalling Windows, we are reinstalling everything, and hopefully that will mean that I can stream, at least to some sort of quality, Star Citizen without it repeatedly kind of crashing on me and stuff, which would be nice. I'm just going to kill the mini fridge in the background because it sounds like it's trying to take off. There we go, lovely jubbly. But that's that. Speaking of mini fridge, today's stream is not sponsored, even in the slightest, by Stoford Press. Go on, show it. Show it. There we go, by Stoford Press. So yeah, grab a drink, pull up a pew. I've decided to take the safe road today by talking about that topic that no one gets angry at all, scope creep. Which means it's probably going to get angry. But hopefully we can have an adult discussion without everyone throwing their toys out of their pram. Wouldn't that be nice? But yeah, we'll just give it a couple more minutes, see if anyone else is going to join us. I'm not entirely sure how many people we've got in at the minute, but we'll see who's around. And then we shall have a look at, first of all, some of the update and the progress reports, and kind of what it was that triggered this conversation for this week. Because I saw something and I just went... It was along the lines of bedsheet defamation tech, where I just went, what, why, what? I don't understand. So, yeah. If you're in chat, I don't know if I'm even in the right chat at the minute. Say hello, just type anything, give us a 1, give us an A, I mean, give us an F if you want to. But just let me know you're in there and that my chat connection is working. Otherwise, I can't respond to anything, and I can't kind of pick up on questions and whatnot. So let me know. You are uncharacteristically quiet in chat, and it's kind of freaking me out a bit. Because the one thing I haven't planned for is this format where no one's talking. So, put me out of my misery. Go on, I dare you. But let's have a look. One of the exciting things that's happened this week is that my very first delivery from... Nicholas Famel says, just watch Ollie's video, then Salty Mike's reaction, and then DG360's reaction. Interesting. White Lion says he's driving. Dude, yeah, in that case, mate, stay safe, but I will do my best to keep you entertained whilst you're and awake, at least. Ollie's video. Is this something we need to go and look at? Do we need to react to this on stream? Because I don't think I've seen Ollie's video yet. So what is it that I've missed? Is that the one from 2015, or is the Star Citizen Will Never Be the Same? Is it worth going and having a look and playing it back? You guys let me know. I will. Ollie is burnt out. Not enough content. Oh, is that? Ah, okay. Is this the Star Citizen video? Let's talk. Is that the one that? Okay. What do you reckon? Do we react to that first? Do we have a look? Because I like Ollie. He's normally kind of very upbeat and stuff, but he's also quite realistic. Oh my god, I hate the internet. Let's see if that works, shall we? Okay, I think that's us. I'm pretty sure that's us. So, sorry about that. Welcome back. Shinobi, hello, mate. How you doing? Good to see you. So I think that's us. Okay. Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at Ollie's video about being slightly burnt out and whatnot. And hopefully react to a little bit of that. And then we will, I promise, get on to scope creep and everything else. Okay, let's have a look. I've just got the worst ISP, unfortunately, at the moment, and there's very little I can do about it. So let's have a look at watching live. Let's switch over and see what Ollie's got to say.
I don't know where this video is going to go. I haven't really thought about it too much, but I just really need to be completely honest with you guys and be completely upfront and just... It doesn't really freaking matter. It's just a YouTube channel, but you have to realize for me, it's like my whole world. This is what I do. I get up every day and I make YouTube videos. I talk to you guys. It's important to me. So just let me indulge in a little conversation about what is going on with the channel, me, Twitch, everything, and just speak to you guys as kind of openly as possible. So I've tried the past. You notice that I haven't uploaded the video. Let me just double check this. In over nearly 10 days now, which is super rare for me. For the past year and a half, I've been uploading, I don't know, a video every other day. Some months, a video every day. And here's the thing, guys. I'm a little burnt out. Like, to the point where I can't get through recording a video, and my editor Jack will know this. I can't get through recording a video without second guessing myself, thinking, you know, have I made the right video? Have I said the right thing? Is this entertaining? Stopping and starting again. Stopping and starting again. Stopping and starting again. And it's really not like me. Like, usually I'm a one-take wonder. I just turn on the computer, have a rough idea in my head of what I'm doing, record it, and that's it. Jack gets that video, edits it, and it's kablamo. Sometimes 250,000 views just like that. And it is genuinely, one, super weird, and two, really freaking easy. It's natural. It doesn't feel hard work. But lately, it's complete opposite. I don't know if I've lost my confidence in what I'm saying, or whether or not people are interested, or I'm just completely burnt out on Star Citizen. I don't know what it is, but it's got to a point now where I feel like I have to make this video and just talk to you guys. Like,
It's interesting because Ollie and I obviously have. I'm sorry, Ollie, I've paused that at just the wrong moment. There you go. Let's have you with your eyes open. I feel where he's coming from in some ways and not in others. So I am not a one-hit wonder when it comes to recording stuff. I'm completely the other way, which I think is why it's been so long since I've released an actual kind of short-form video, or, you know, kind of not shorts, but I mean my videos run to maybe 20 minutes if I'm doing really well, more like somewhere around the 12 to 15 minutes. And that's really hard. And there can be gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of video sat behind that I'm cutting out. You know, I was like, oh, that bit will be really good in this very, very long section of video that I've actually recorded. But it's interesting what he says about the doubt and doubting himself. Is this the right video? Have I said the right thing? Because I think we all go through this. Every content creator with all of the videos they make. Least, you know, and that's not counting the fact that Star Citizen's a game in open development with so many views. I mean, you take anything in Star Citizen, you could probably get two very extreme opposing views about it. And it's like, well, you know, am I at least saying something where the other side can go, well, I don't agree with you, but I see where you're coming from. Probably not easy to do with gamers, right? Because we just like what we like and that's it, and everyone else is, you know, heretics who must be quashed. But it's an interesting thing to know that he's actually, you know, that this is not something that goes away. Sorry if it's super quiet for you. Give me 2 seconds. I'll just see if I can adjust that. Is that so? Oh, he's super quiet. Or I'm super quiet for you, Shinobi. Just let me know, buddy. But I'll pump the volume up a little on here, and hopefully that'll be enough. So let's keep going. Let's see what he's got to say.
Cut and dry of it, the absolute truth is, I got really burnt with 3.18 in Star Citizen, covering it on like a daily basis. And the thing that really just pushed me over the edge is the recent 3.19 F8 Lightning thing. I spent a week preparing a video. Whilst I was preparing a video, I had to build up reputation in the game. I, you know, had game crashes. I had missions bug out on me, which means I lost rep, which means I had to redo and I went to prison because like I exploded in an asteroid field for no reason. Things like this, and I spent hours upon hours upon hours trying to make this video, and then when I got to the point where I could actually record the video, you couldn't even do the freaking thing. And it was just like, I think it just nudged me over the edge in terms of like making content for Star Citizen, gameplay wise.
Good to see you, bud.
I mean, when I first started, it was incredibly charming. It's a game in development. I don't mind the bugs, and still now, like, I overlook it a lot of the time because it's in development. It's going to get better, and I expect it to get better, and I know it will get better. But lately, I don't know whether that was just the last straw, or I just hate being negative. I hate negativity in an entertainment space in terms of me whining about crap that bothers me. Like, no one freaking cares. Like, if it's about the game or it's about a thing, then yeah, maybe. But this only annoys me, you know. It doesn't annoy any of you. So I find
it's, again, yeah, I completely get where he's coming from, and I think this is the key for. You've got people coming into the game space who are gameplay YouTubers, right? So it's all about having that sort of side of you know, I play games, I do really well at it, or I do things in a comedic way or a very interesting way, and this is my kind of forte as a YouTuber, speaking from Ollie's perspective. The problem is that Star Citizen's not there yet, right? These challenges and these dynamic events, and you and I know that sometimes they've got to be avoided because they're just not good. You know, like the whole, oh, we're going to release whichever one it was it Xeno Threat over that weekend, and everyone just went, no, not with the current state of the servers, I'm not going anywhere near that. And that's the problem at the minute. You know, one of the gameplay streamers that I watch a lot on Twitch is Landmark, and he does almost exclusively Tarkov content, right? And Tarkov's another game in a long, drawn-out development, but, you know, is in a much more polished state than this. And even he gets very, very frustrated. He does like 6 or 7 hours of this a night. He's exceptionally good at the game. But that's his thing, right? That's why you watch him. He's very, very, very good at it, and people watch him, as well as to see all the kill you know, the streaks and stuff that he goes on, which is mental, to get better themselves, and they follow his sort of stuff. We're not there yet. Nicholas Fennell says, I'm a content creator on multiple channels. It's hard work. Playing with such a buggy mess makes it extra difficult, and it's not fun. CIG needs to step it up. You know, Essie's got a long way to go before it, yeah, I think before it becomes a platform for gameplay streamers generally. And I think that's why Info Runners has attracted the following that it's attracted. Because, you know, we've not tried to, you know, make it about gameplay. Sometimes there's gameplay, you know, but there's only so many times you can watch X crash into asteroids before, you know, it gets really, really dull. Although it's always a little bit funny. Resabona says, Essie's got a long way to go before it's ready. I think Squadron is getting closer, but that's the same sense as walking from your house to the nearest mountain range. Yeah, agreed, 100%. Let's continue on, because this is interesting stuff. I think for me as a content creator as well, it's almost having a chat with another content creator. So that's quite an interesting.
I find this really hard to. I'm this close to just stopping the video and just going and make a cup of tea or something, but I'm going to persevere because I've tried so hard to make videos over the past week and it's just not happening. So, yeah, basically, long story short, I don't know whether it's Star Citizen. I don't know whether it's just me. I'm just having a tough time at the moment. I don't know. I'm tired. I don't know what it is, but to be quite frank with you, I'm kind of struggling a little bit. And I'm really finding it tough to just make videos. Something I've been doing for more than 10 years now. And it's a little jarring to second guess myself when I've been doing this for 10 years. I've got over 2,000 videos uploaded to YouTube, millions of views. Recently we broke over 400 million views on the channel. And I'm sat here going, oh, is this entertaining? It's weird, right? So I don't know what the solution is in terms of maybe I just need to take a break. Maybe I need to choose a different game. Maybe I need to just push through it. I don't know, but it's really weird because I echo this in my head, right? I'm thinking about this all the time. I'm going over it and over and over and over it. I forget that nobody else knows this, right? This might be the first you've ever heard, Ollie's finding making video stuff at the moment. I don't know why. Just the past week, it's just been freaking hard. And it's weird to me because I don't usually find this hard. It's the easiest freaking job in the world. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what to do. Doesn't always work.
I mute myself so you don't have to hear me drink, because there's nothing worse on stream, is there, than hearing someone drink or eat. It's just awful. Right, rewind. I identify with this a lot, and I think every creative person does, right? Whether you're an actor, an actress, a musician, a painter, a content creator, whatever it is that you do when you make something for other people to appreciate in terms of entertainment, what he's described there is what everyone goes through. Is this good? Is this my best work yet? Is this a chart-stopping album, or is this just, an album full of safe bets? Is this a role that you know, that people want me in, or are they going to be really upset that I've accepted this role? And I think, and Nicholas, you let me know, buddy, because you know you're involved in multiple channels as well. I think that's what drives you as a creator of anything to keep being better. Is that constant self-check. Is this fun? Could it be better? Is this enjoyable? Could it be better? Is this what I want to put out? Is this actually me? And for those... yeah, sorry guys. We've all talked to ourselves in Discord or stream. Lying if you say you haven't. Yeah, my bad. But I think it's one of those things that you that kind of drives you on, right? And that's what makes you want to be better. And the minute that stops, I think it's time to give up. The minute you go, people are just going to love what I put out regardless, that's when arrogance is overtaken, and that's when you see people fall, and that's when you see people stop being good at what they do. So yeah, I get this. I think this is, you know, and it's where he says, I've got to, you know, the channel's got to 400 million views, and I'm still wondering if I'm entertaining. And that's the problem, is like the thought of 400 million views. I'm just like, where do I sign? How do I get to that? You know, but that is in the, like, 400 million views is overwhelming evidence that this guy is funny, creative, people enjoy what he does, this is entertaining content. And yet, his head, in face of all that evidence, there's no arguing with those numbers. He's still going, I don't know if I've just, it's like imposter syndrome, right? Am I just lucking it? So I get what he's saying, and I don't think that's anything to do with Star Citizen. I think that's very separate to Star Citizen. That's just something he's going to go through all the time. Regardless of what game you put him in, that's something he's going to suffer, right? Retina, thanks. I have a feeling I know who you're talking about. But yes, let's continue on.
YouTube can be a little bit of a lottery sometimes. I mean, a lot of it is down to the way you make thumbnails and engage with people in the videos with stuff, but you know, not every video bangs, and that's fine. But it just, yeah, lately it's tough, man. It's really tough. Like, in case you're wondering, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to stop doing YouTube anytime soon. I really want to get this kind of an off thing. Like, I saw 400 million the other day. I was like, that's cool, but it's not half a billion. A billion would be cool. Then I would feel like, okay, I've made some videos. I can do something else now. But, like, still some juice in the tank for sure. But, man, Star Citizen 3.19 for me has been harder than 3.18. Even though 3.18 borderline didn't work, it was still interesting to me. But 3.19, there's nothing new. There's nothing for me to cover, apart from, you know, Jump Town and Xeno Threat again. Like, it's just not interesting.
I did
right now. And like, apart from, and this is why I'm struggling, apart from like treading over things I've already done before, I guess that's why I'm second guessing myself, because I'm like, I've already.
Yeah, this is really interesting. This is the bit we get into it. Is that sometimes progress in Star Citizen means that they fix all the buggy crap they broke, and it goes back to the way it was. It's the patch before, and you go, okay, 3.19. We're kind of back to where we were in 3.17, and that's it for the next 4 months. That's all I've got to say, because that's all they did, was they fix everything they broke, and that is really, really interesting, because I think that is the difference between people who go into the development and the background of it, and, you know, they go into speculation land, into the wilderness, armed with nothing but best intentions, and that's it, right? That's where things end up, because only by looking at what's coming in the future can you kind of fill this content quota. And I'm really hoping next week that my hard drive swap fixes the problem that I have. For those that are not aware, I play Star Citizen and then for some reason it seems to think that I've run out of memory. Now I haven't. My mem tests have all come up fine. The memory is there. It just for some reason decides that I'm out of memory and bins me out of the game. And you can imagine, I'm sure, when you are, you've got 9 or 8 friends on your hammerhead and you're in the middle of a gunfight and all of a sudden you bin out and now someone needs to grab the ship, come back and get you, get back on, then, someone else disconnects, you need to go and get them, and then you go and, you go back to where you were in a mission, chasing something down. To get back to that is incredibly demotivating, right? So it's not easy to kind of to get there and keep doing that. So I kind of get what he's saying in the effort that it takes to make videos and put things together, and that's why there's no videos for me. But if you look at I've got a short list of videos that I kind of want to create and have a look at, and most of that is about, so one of them is about the medical state of the game. One of them I want to look at the ship pipeline and break that down for people so it's easy to understand. So someone could go, oh, they're in Lot Zero. Oh, yeah. So that's this bit, and there's 2 more stages to go before it's ended, or whatever, right? So that's the plan. Fox Vlog says, off to the gym, bro. Have a good rest of your stream. Thank you very much, mate. Enjoy. Notorious, welcome. Lots of chat about hoping CitizenCon knocks our socks off. Yeah, absolutely. And Retina says, yeah, I suppose in that case it's where people need to explore the game rather than the bugs and fixes. I.e. take a career out exploring, looking for emergent gameplay, or create your own. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, at this point, there's probably just not enough gameplay to rely on doing that full time. I don't think that's where this game is at the minute. But let's keep going.
I made a video on this. I've already talked about this. I've already shown this off. This is interesting, so I don't know what I need to do. Find something else, I suppose, or wait until 3.20 comes out. I'm really, don't get me wrong, 3.20 is going to be one heck of a patch. We've got all the new Arena Commander stuff. There is just so much packed into that, like game modes. There's the experimental mode. We're going to be checking out master modes for the first time. There's new game modes in terms of experimental FPS. There's new pirate swarms. There's
Tonk combat, tonk.
New maps. There's a new planet, the whole sea. There's so much content in 3.20. It's going to be absolute bananas. But yeah, right now, I gotta be honest, I'm really struggling to, commit to making videos in terms of, I don't want to upload videos no one wants to watch, and I have a hard time with that. I could sit here and hit record on a gaming session in Star Citizen and just upload it regardless. That's not the issue. The issue is, I've lost the... I don't know, I completely lost touch with what people might be interested in. And maybe I know what that is, but I just can't, I can't find it anymore. Or maybe I don't know, man. It's rough. I'm just in my own head over this stuff. It's weird. Yeah, I don't know. I know what a lot of you will say before you even say it. And, maybe you've already typed it out. Just take a break. Do something else. And that's fine, guys. But the thing is, I don't know what to make videos on. There's I recorded a video this morning of BattleBit, but I'm really hesitant to upload it because I don't know if anyone's gonna care about me playing BattleBit.
Yeah, Notorious. So this is Ollie 43. He's a YouTube content creator with 1.5 something million subscribers. So this guy knows what he's doing. He's found Star Citizen. He's come across. He's endearingly positive about everything, and he takes the bugs in his stride, which is really, really nice to see. So he's you know, he's probably someone very positive to look at this sort of stuff. But he's talking about the challenges that he's facing in creating content, and there's a little bit of so, you know, as we've just said, sometimes all the patch does is fix it and bring it back to a previous patch, and that's really hard from the content creator's point of view, because you can do that video in 10 seconds. Yeah, they fixed it. 319 is now pretty much where 317 was. And there's not much else added to the game. There you go, that's the video. In 10 seconds. Done. Maybe I should just do that, right? Maybe I should just upload that as a short and see where that goes. But, you know, he's also talking about the existential angst that you feel as a content creator about, is this good? Is this what people want? All that sort of stuff. And I sympathise 100%. And I think there's also a little bit of, he's a gameplay content creator. Whereas that's not necessarily what every Star Citizen content creator is at this point in time. And thank God for that. So yeah. It's an interesting one. Yeah, Retina Banner says, I'm looking forward to taking the Storm out and just seeing what it can do. In fact, the Storm was updated in the latest PU progress report. I think they're talking about that it's just exited LOD 0, and some of it is going up for final review, which is exciting. But yeah, so feel for him, and that's not a great place. I don't want to go and steal too much of his video, but yeah, I think that's just it at the moment, and maybe that's a nice link into what we kind of wanted to talk about in terms of everything else. So, you know, I picked the really, really safe conversation topic of let's talk about scope creep. And there was something that kind of popped up in everything that made me question that. So, in the Squadron 42 monthly report for June, there was a line that I just went, and it was a lot like the bedsheet defamation tech line, which is quite funny. Let's have a look. And it's this bit here. Last month, the animation team worked on facial animations for a new character set. They also progressed with their ongoing work on boids, which relate to animals flying in flocks or swarms. Now, like, I get it. Teams aren't a monolith, so animation can only work on animation type things. And maybe that's where they are in the PU at the moment. There's nothing else for them to go and do. Because, of course, the animation team isn't the team that's putting the looks on underground facilities, for example. That's not what they do, because that's not animation, that's environment and environment artists, right? But you start to wonder whether, is this another example of where scope creep has come through? And I'll explain why I think that, right? And I don't want to get hung up on flocks and swarms are not scope creep, therefore the argument about scope creep is invalid, because that's a logical fallacy, right? Just because one example used isn't that, it doesn't mean that the underlying argument is invalid. And I don't want to go too far down that road, but every so often I think we all kind of look at something and go, really? Like with everything else going on, and that's what we're working on. And it starts to make you, I think, wonder whether, in my head, and here we go, here's the bit where I'm probably going to start an argument. It makes you wonder whether CIG are trying to keep the game in development longer. And what I mean by that, before everyone gets really, really angry at me, is I would hope that we get to the stage where you would get a product with a number of systems that's probably not all 100, right? that is maybe 5, 10, 20, 25, 50, whatever it is. A number of systems with the core gameplay loops in. So we've got salvage and data running and mining and hacking and boarding and engineering and all that stuff. And then that is released, and then they just continue doing what they're doing, which is what they've said anyway. They're going to continue with the quarterly development with a patch, and they're just going to keep adding things. Now, there's two ways to approach that. The first one is that you release that product, and then you keep adding everything else on. The second is that you keep the product in development until it's got everything in it that you want, and then you release that. But what it means is that you prioritize all of the tasks, the animations, the environments, the locations, the gameplay loops that were originally promised. And the other one is you just work on it all, because it doesn't matter what order in which it comes, apart from, obviously, you've got to do some things before you do others, like blockers, right? But generally, it doesn't matter whether you do, I don't know, Vandal or Xi'an or whatever first, because they've all got to be ready before the end, right? Whereas maybe actually the Vandal's an opponent, so if you wanted to release the core game, you'd have Vandals as opponents, and then add on the other races later on. Yeah, because we can't play them, and if all they're going to do is stand there like a human and give us missions to do, they don't necessarily need to be something that we do right now, because you can have a human in that spot and then you just replace them with a Xi'an character, right? So potentially, that's it. Wouldn't want to be that seagull. Duct tape to mocap a seagull. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I hope it's not the case as well, Nicholas. It begins to raise questions when you've got things like flocks or swarm behaviour in here that makes you start to think, wait a second, that's not particularly clever, I don't think. And that sort of stuff. So there's that. And I think with the scope creep, that's where scope creep comes into this. Because if you're going to focus on releasing what was promised with the Kickstarter and everything else and those core gameplay loops, and that all goes into the release game, and then you continue with the live development all the way through, then scope creep doesn't actually matter, because we're in the core game and playing it anyway, and they're just adding stuff on, like every other game's done. Like, you could look at Warcraft as it is now versus Warcraft as it was when it was released back in 2004 or whatever. And you can look at the two things and go, well, okay, if you look at Warcraft as it was released and Warcraft as it is now, everything between release to now could be described as scope creep. But, actually, if they release the core game and then add everything on afterwards, it doesn't matter, because we're in the core game as it's described. And I'm hoping they're going to do exactly the same with Star Citizen. It's just sometimes you look at them doing things and you're like, that seems to indicate not. Now, that doesn't mean that because we see things where we go, yeah, that's really weird to be working on now, that's the way they're going. It might just be that that's all they have available to work on right now, right? And you don't want a team sat there going, I got nothing to do. But to avoid the appearance of scope creep, we won't do any of the other stuff. We'll just sit here on our hands and not do things, right? Because you'll notice that particular entry is 2 lines, 2 sentences. So that might just be that they are waiting for animations to come through that aren't there yet. They are, there's a list of things they need to work on that are waiting for other things to happen. They've completed their current workload and they're like, what can we do in the meantime? This. And it's done. So Edison says, being an MMO, I can't see them ever releasing it with everything they want in. No, which is kind of exciting because isn't that what would keep people playing a game, an MMO, that it constantly evolves? Shady Phase, good evening, buddy. You're welcome. I'm thinking they're going to go Warframe route, go to beta and stay there as they continue to add stuff. Yeah, they've said that whatever stage they release in, that what we're seeing at the moment with quarterly releases, they're not going away. Those quarterly releases are always going to happen. So yeah, that's exciting. I think they'll go to 1.0 release when they have 3 to 5 systems, so there's a jump point loop at least. Retina Boner says, as much as I hate to say it, I wonder if CIG even has a plan for some kind of release schedule once they really reach certain milestones. So, I mean, if I had to put money on it without really thinking about it now, I'll just, for thought juice, we shall start on our second can of Stay for Press. I think, they are not sure 100% on how long dynamic server meshing is going to take to implement, right? Because it's a research and development project, right? So designing anything new that doesn't exist yet, you don't get to say, well, that'll be done in 6 months. Done. It's not how this stuff works. So whilst they're working on that, they'll have to do everything else, right? So they don't know. There is no deadline, in other words. So they're not working towards a time to fit everything in, and to to make everything work for the right time. That's just not. They have no deadline for that, so they have no focus. So they can't really work on everything completing for a certain date. Therefore, here's what we can achieve, here's what can't be achieved, so this is it at 1.0 release, and this is everything else down the line. They can't do that right now. So yeah, we'll see how that progresses, but I think that's it, is that the idea of dynamic server meshing as they want it to handle very complicated kind of engine functions, and then being able to hand that off as it's needed. So in theory, if you brought 25 retaliators to a mission and you just all unleash torpedoes at the same time, in theory the game should be able to spin that off, right, and go, okay, we got torpedoes, that's more than the server can handle. Christ, so you server, you spin up, you deal with this, you deal with the impending damage that this is going to cause when we get there, and then once these torpedoes are all done and it's all calmed, we'll spin those servers down because they're not needed anymore, because now we don't have 25 times 6 torpedoes in the air. Ta-da, done. All that sort of stuff is obviously going to have to be done before they get to a 1.0 launch. That's the key blocker. One of the things that I saw within... I'm just going to pop some music on in the background again. There we go. Lovely. Within that report is that it kind of confirms to me that server meshing isn't coming at any point in the near future, because they were talking about making a plan for moving something over to static server meshing or something, which is obviously the requirement for 4.0, because that's how we go from Stanton to Pyro and back again. So I'm just going to see if I can find that now for you. Yeah, so that's it there. So I'm just going to change you back over. So the Systemic Services and Tools team began planning the required services refactor in support of server meshing. So we are, 7 months in now? We're just into month 7, so fully half the year gone. We're planning the required services refactor. Now, I don't know how long that'll take, because frankly, I don't even know what that means, other than taking all the back-end stuff and going from you're only ever going to deal with one server to you're going to deal with 2 or more, right? Is the kind of explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old sort of idea of that. So yeah, and the fact that began planning makes it sound to me like they've only just gone and put all this in. What's really encouraging now, as I go back up, so is this bit at the top of engine, is the core engine team finished integrating the latest changes into the main development branch. This took a significant effort, but the team managed to stabilize and roll out the many major rewrites made over the past few months. To me, that reads that PES is now in and more stable than it ever has been. Okay, so it looks like the work on static server meshing is pretty much there. Sorry, on persistent entity streaming is pretty much there, and obviously they will continue to add, refine, improve. I forget what the my brain does this every so often. It goes, you know that word you really want to use? No, but optimization. All the optimization stuff will come later. The point is that it's in and it should be in and it should be working. Okay. So, Retro Banner says, I don't recall if they gave a number on the number of systems at launch, but even if the systems come out twice as quickly as the first one, 7 years, that's still a long time to get all those initial systems out. That said, I'm sure they'll automate a large proportion of system building as time progresses. And then Artec, hello, dude. Good to see you. On Spectrum kept saying CIG releasing server meshing soon. That tech is years away. Yeah, so I mean the interesting thing is that the static server meshing obviously is tech that's existed forever, right? Because that's your every loading screen on World of Warcraft when you cross the sea between Azeroth and Kalimdor, the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. That's static server meshing. When you jump into a dungeon instance, that's static server meshing. You're merely being changed from the world server to an instance server, which is nice and easy. I mean, Diablo 4 does that. When you go from the world to a dungeon, you're being taken from the world server, where you see all the other players, to your own server, where you're only seeing things, right? So that stuff is established, and network engineers and server engineers that used to working on games, all that's going to be basic. So the very simple I can go from Stanton to Pyro is should be quite quick to implement, jumping across, because I hope they have been in the background always looking at updating things, so that whenever it comes in, they can go, yeah, it's only going to take a couple of months, we just need to update this, that, and the other thing, and go across, rather than, oh yes, now we need to start thinking about static server meshing and moving everything across, because they've always known that it's the aim. Yeah, so that's good news. Just thought I'd highlight this as well before we go on, is finally the team concluded work on 3 new experimental modes that feature the new flight system master modes, Free Flight, Duel, and Endless Vandal Swarm. So that's cool. So we're going to be seeing those in 320 in the Arena Commander stuff. So when everyone says, what's Arena Commander to me? Well, if you want to play on Master Modes, there you go. So that's kind of cool. Something else we can get our hands on. I quite like this as well. I don't know who's noticed this. As part of this, the team experimented with a new user interface that remains in first-person view, allowing players to assess combat-related items and then quickly loot or exchange medpens, ammunition, grenades, and weapons. So this is inventory for looting in combat, for changing stuff around in combat. So rather than going to the current view, there'll be something that you'll hopefully be able to switch out very, very quickly, rather than risking doing all that in the middle of combat. So that's quite a nice thing. Although, you know, I'm going to say I'm sure what everyone else says, which is give star map. Yeah. So what's the thoughts in chat? Is feature creep getting in the way? Or is all we are seeing their list of stuff they ever want to put into the game, and that they're working on a set of priorities that actually doesn't affect the game? I'd be interested to hear what you guys think, because I think the problem is that we are only ever going to be able to speculate on this stuff, because, as I said before, what we can't see is that the reasons behind a team working on a particular feature or function. We can guess, but what we don't see are, well, actually, that team, just for the moment, has got nothing to do. Like the guy who's Rivers guy on the ISC and on Star Citizen Live, right? He just had a little bit of time. So rather than sit there and go, I'm just going to waste the 5 hours I've got this week by hanging around the water cooler, talking to people, making cups of tea, whatever else, I'm just going to mess with some code to see if I can get Rivers working. And then his boss stands over his shoulders like, what's that? Oh, I was just messing with some code for Rivers. Okay, hang on a second. One of the guys is working on code for Rivers and it looks really good. Do you want to come over and have a look at? And then they come over and then all of a sudden we have Rivers. Yeah, and of course that was going to be worked on at some point. But this happens all the time in animation and games. Retina Bonus says, regarding master modes, I think it's a smart call to roll out an Arena Commander first before dropping it into the PU. Yeah, and the entire community just loses its shit. Yeah, absolutely. I almost lost my headphones. But yeah, that's it. Nicholas Famel says, was it the Montreal studio that was working on planets and star systems? So many studios and the community has only shown a tiny sliver. Yeah, that's something else I wanted to talk about in if we get some time at the end of this. Remind me is subscribers and Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Live, because I think that's worth talking about. Edison Trent says, I think they don't plan to have all those things in game at launch, but this is what we want to get in over the lifetime of the game. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Nicholas, I think it is the Montreal studio that's working on that. The other thing that I've seen is I've seen reports of stuff being worked on in Nyx, Odin, Pyro, and there was one other I saw and I was like, in fact, I think that's back in the PU report, right? So let's switch over again. I'm trying to get these switchovers to work better. But there's one where there's the picture of the Arena Commander map. Here we go. Da, 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 da. Yeah, there you go. So, you'll notice this picture here. This is one of the Arena Commander maps called The Good Doctor. Right? And God knows what it is, but yeah, it looks pretty intense, right? And what's interesting here, it says, for Tank Royale, the mode's Magda location failed its go-no-go due to underwhelming visuals and gameplay, which is interesting. It means that their internal process is still doing a good job of going, that's not interesting, we don't want it. In response, design worked on 2 replacement locations to provide greater variety and more visual interest. Daymar and Maya, Lear's second planet. Yeah? So they're adding another Maya location in addition to Lair, right? Which kind of means that they must have the rule set for Lair being worked on or already figured out, right? because this is what the game does, is that it has a number of variables for each planet. It has, altitude, humidity, temperature, all that sort of stuff. And in certain areas, just like in real life, within a certain band of humidity and temperature and altitude and whatever else, these, like this sort of plant and this sort of shrub will exist. And that's what they're doing with procedural generation. So it's not as simple as, No Man's Sky's 30 billion planets, go, and everything's all of a sudden populated. This is much more targeted procedural generation. They have much more control over it. But to have the plants and things in, for this to be recognisable as lair to us, must mean that they have that rule set worked out, right? Even if it's with placeholder trees and plants and rocks and everything else. It means that, if that's all placeholder, all they've got to do is swap it for the real stuff when they get there. So I'm hoping that means that this planet stuff is going to work. I didn't see your message earlier, Napo, if you're still here, but welcome, buddy. And no, you're never going to hear me not complain about making videos, because that's your job. Montreal basically carrying the development single-handedly. Edison says, I think the current hold-up for that stuff is likely server meshing at the back end. Yes, mate, yeah, that's pretty much, I think, what everyone else thinks is seeing at the minute. So that's effectively... What do we say? Odin, Nyx, Lair, and I can't remember if there's another one, but in addition to Pyro, so that's us 5 systems potentially. And remember, because of server meshing, that work can go on, because if your planetary team's like, hey, we finished with Stanton, they're not going to sit here and go, well, we're not going to work on Pyro, we're not going to work on anything else other than Pyro till Pyro gets in. So the team that does that, here are all the rules, here's the trees. Now that they're not working on Pyro, because you'd like to think most of that stuff is done for Pyro, they will be working on Odin and Nyx and everything else, right? And obviously Odin's going to be sorted or close to it, because Squadron 42, that's why. So yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. But I think, going back to the original subject for the video, for me, scope creep, I think for everyone, right? I think you kind of maybe a little bit lying if this isn't a concern for you, but scope creep is an issue for everyone, but it's only depending on how it's implemented. Yeah, for any game that has development whilst the game is a live product, you can look at everything added after launch as scope creep, right? Now, because the real question becomes, do they want it in before or after launch? So if again, I'll use World of Warcraft because it's easiest. I think, that game's had so many players, most people will be able to talk about it. So if we were going to talk about archaeology and inscription and flying and trashing the world before we even had it with Cataclysm and all the other things that have been added, transmog, haircuts, right? Like, who would have cared about haircuts at the launch of World of Warcraft? Like, not a single person. The barbershops and things. All that sort of nonsense that you could do. And then everything that they've ditched and gotten rid of that I've forgotten about. Looking for raid, all of that sort of stuff. From start to going on. If you talked about it, the original, and started talking about everything you wanted to add to the game, people are going to scream scope creep. The question is whether or not they implement a system where they are very much focused on what they want to have at 1.0. They know what that list is like. They're working towards that list. And hey, if they hit that target for 1.0 and dynamic server meshing still isn't in, then what they do is they add more things, because what are you going to do? What, wait for dynamic server meshing and go, well, we won't work on anything else because we've hit our 1.0? No, of course you're not. You're going to keep adding content, right? That makes sense to me. The question is there so much stuff that people are getting sidetracked that they're going, well, let's work on this as well. And, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, like the kid in the sweet shop, it's like, dude, we're here for school uniform, mate. We need to get you some uniform ready for school. Oh, yeah, but, and you just can't keep focused. And we're never really going to have the answer to that, because you'll have people who say that everything is very focused at CIG, and you'll have the people that say that everything is chaotic at CIG. And how do you tell the difference? Because all we see is everything they've worked on and the stuff that they put in the report. But if it was genuinely chaotic, you wouldn't put it in a report, would you? So the people that are funding your game can see it. Do you see what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, Edison says they're working on more systems than we know about. But until they have us with moving from server to server, yeah, exactly that. Pyro to Stanton will be the test bed. Yeah, exactly. And then once they're doing that, because the other thing that's really interesting at that point is that once you're at that stage, now your costs are going up. Because everything they're doing at the minute, they've just got to have Stanton servers online. What happens when they change over? I mean, they're almost going to need to have as many servers doing Pyro as they did with Stanton, and probably half the amount that do Stanton, because everyone's just going to go, new system, woo, charge over there, and Stanton's going to be left empty, and Pyro's just going to be, inundated with people, which is, what happens every time they release something new, right? Everyone has a go at it. But yeah. Something else that I found in here that was really, really cool. Let's have a look. You might need to bear with me for just a second. But I know it's in here somewhere. One of the things that looked quite cool is that they are working on the ability to grab a ledge, I think. Yeah, here we go. Mission features work with active features to get the ledge grab feature enabled in the PU. Seeing it through the QA and go no-go process. This feature allows players to grab onto ledges whilst in midair, right? Which you go, hang on, that mantling works. No, that's not what they're talking about. Allowing players to reach ship entrances that were previously out of reach. They also made a pass on the prison escape mission along the USPU team to ensure the new feature could be used to its fullest. So the idea is that when, the Arsendia Connie's sticking up and you lower the ramp and you can't get into it, now you should be able to jump up, grab the ledge, pull yourself up. Which is a very, very small thing, but really, really useful for stuff. And just like a quality of life improvement, because now you can get back into your ship, even when it does the silly things. Which is kind of cool. I don't know what does anyone know what this Maelstrom is? It keeps talking about Maelstrom, and I'm sure they've mentioned it somewhere, and I've just missed it. But it's another name, because they've all got everything, haven't they? They've got Quantum and Apollo and all this stuff, and I'm just losing track of all these silly little names. Scroll up a few lines, please. Oh, sorry, Retina. From which bit, buddy? Is it the from the mission feature bit, or are you trying to get my account details? Because you can't have it. I don't think that's what that means, Edison. The first iteration of entity spawning based on mesh setup at CDAs was submitted, which is required for Maelstrom. Or maybe it does. Maybe that sentence is just so full of stuff that you can't even figure out what it applies to. But I don't think that's what Maelstrom means, because it mentions it a couple of times again. It mentions it twice. Yeah, so the physics team supported the game teams with various bug fixes progressed with cantilever booms for the Maelstrom editor. So Maelstrom editor, that's not a location in that context, I don't think. It might also be one, but not in that context. Yeah, so stuff. I don't quite know what some of these locations are. That's obviously something new. Because that doesn't look like Korea or anything like that. And that one at the top, that's obviously UGF, as is that, the underground facilities. And I'm guessing then, if that's what that is with that little console at the top, that's also what that is. Given the fact that it's surrounded in rock. But that looks kind of cool. I am Maelstrom and I think Cyberpunk 2077 gang. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what I found kind of weird, I think, about this, going back to what Nicholas was talking about in terms of, you know, the subscriber stuff, is that there's so much information and a lot of stuff we're not being told, is I feel like they're now wide of the mark on what they're releasing in terms of the subscriber content. So that's the Thursday ISC and the Friday Star Citizen Live. Firstly, the beautiful thing about videos is that you can plan them in advance. So if you are going on holiday, you can still have videos. So the fact that they're taking 3 weeks off shouldn't mean that we're taking a gap in ISC. Not for the amount of money that subscribers are bringing in. And I'm going to be hard over on this, is that they can do better on that front. We need more information on what's going on, you know, more look-sees. You know, now that we've seen things like Pyro, like, give us an update. You know, the Journey to 4.0 stuff that they're doing that suddenly disappeared again. That planet where they got the cloud height wrong and all of a sudden they had low-lying fog everywhere, like, if you get rid of that, I'm actually going to rage quit. Because that looks absolutely amazing, and I have no idea why you want to get rid of such an atmospheric location. That's just ridiculous. And also, I like the idea, like, every so often they went into a deep dive about people's roles. Great, good. You know, it's important for us to know. But I feel like now they've just kind of, that's become their hour-long content. And the reason I bring that one up right now, of course, is because that's what they did, I think, for last Friday. Although I haven't seen it. Maybe I'm being unfair, because I haven't watched it and I've already gone, but I did read the description. So that counts, right? Right, guys? But their video from the game dev production discussion, that chat is, ever wondered what a game producer does? Join us today on Star Citizen Live as we dive deeper into this game development role. A special guest Jake Ross and Philip Basara from our production team. Which, if that's what we're getting on a regular basis, is not. That's not what we're paying for. And I think what we'll do very quickly is it might be worth looking into this, you know. So I make it sound like a PI. We should look into this and get to the bottom of it, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was this bit. Okay. So when you see income, what you'll see here is you've got subscriptions. Okay, I promise that's what it says. That's really blurry for me as well, because they've obviously just taken an image. But it's income. I can't even read that. income something from subscriptions, and it's not received. But it's that bit there, right? So subscriptions in thousands. So basically, that pink figure 4969 and then 3 zeros. So literally just under 5 million in subscriptions per year. Which, if you remember back on the way, they said that subscriptions, there you go, subscriptions were up 6% to 5 million. So, there you go. So the whole chat about subscriptions was that money was always and forever going to be used to keep us in the loop. And they've obviously spent a large amount of it for the set that they've done, and that part of the new Manchester studio, the only constant, which is great. Like I've got no issue if that, if part of their production value is going to be that, then fine. But it doesn't feel like, and you guys let me know, am I whinging for the sake of whinging? But it doesn't feel like we're getting enough of a view into what's going on. We're not seeing enough stuff that's coming down the pike. And I get that a lot of that is because, oh, we're back to this again. Sorry. That's really weird that it does that. I just hear myself talking in my headset, and it's really upsetting. I see why we're getting Seraphim. I understand where they've gone with that, but yeah, I mean, RSR is always going to be one of those things that. Alistair's always going to have that location. It's always going to be that location, especially for the older backers, because it's going to be the station we remember spawning in at before we have main landing zones. Before you could change your spawn zone, it was always and forever Alistair. So yeah, I get that. But yeah, so. I think they need to do something that is more effective. I think we need at least an Inside Star Citizen, the Thursday 15 to 20 minute. Because when they did the first one, back after the year, I think, it was about the resource system, the resource management, and it was almost 20 minutes. It was full of info. It was, it had images and showing us stuff, and there was people going around and changing, like they just had, it was really simple. It was just something that was strapped to the wall of a hammerhead, so they'd literally just gone and added the asset. They hadn't opened any of the cabinets. It's like, I don't want to open the cabinet, I want to see what you want to do with this stuff. So the fact that it was not in its final form, it was just something that you went up to the wall and removed like a plug or whatever it was, that's fine. Nobody cares that doesn't look like the final thing. I can visualize, because you're showing it to me, what that looks like. And unfortunately, we just don't seem to be getting that stuff at the moment, which is, yeah, a real shame, because, it's being paid for. They've said the money from subscriptions will go into providing us stuff like, quality created content. And sorry, I'm banging the mic around here. It's doing weird things. The stand's kind of going on it, so I'm going to need a new one shortly. But yeah, so that's unfortunate, but that's where we are at the minute. Yeah. Your thoughts? What do you reckon? What's that? Tessa Bannister is the same. OG back has still missed that sexy voice. Oh God. The Connie Phoenix set is nice, but it feels like we get less and less info and videos with the amount of money they get for it. They're definitely taking a lot of breaks. Yeah, it's look. I don't want to bang on about it because I've kind of said my piece, but yes, you're right. That's what they're doing. It's unfortunate, but that's what they're doing. I don't really know how else to respond to that. The kind of exciting thing is that I am almost at the stage where we can have a tour of the hobby cave. Sorry, get my eyebrows moving. There's a clip or something if ever I've seen one. So I had some time last weekend to get stuff sorted, and then during the week, this week, I've been painting the house, reminding myself how much I hate DIY, like so much. But having said all of that, we're now at a point, I think, where we're good to go. All I've got to do now is move the bed from here into the smaller room, and then I'm going to Edison, I'm going to ban you. You're a monster. Is I'm going to rotate the desk basically through 90 degrees, and then sit with my back to the wall rather than the back into the centre of the room. But there's all sorts of stuff kicking around that's kind of cool, and I'll just do one big kind of tour. I've got some of my military service medals. I've got my naval sword, which is kicking around in here somewhere. I've got all my Warhammer stuff. So one side of the room is going to be set up about gaming. So in the background you can see like all my collector's editions, and you know, I'm going to have my disc plates on the wall. Got a new display as well. So that's going to all be in the background. And then on the other side is going to be basically my hobby, my tabletop wargaming area. So I'm going to have a game table set up. I'm going to have my display cabinets there with my armies that are ashamedly not painted in the corner. But, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then once it's all set up, I will deactivate the background, the green screen, and I will take you on a tour around, hopefully with a better camera as well. And just show you around, and because this one's still a little bit. I'm on one of the Logitech ones, and I'm thinking an Elgato face cam might be a good shout, because I'm not really at the stage where I'm ready to splash lots of money on an SLR. Just because I don't do this enough to splash lots of money on an SLR. But things are looking up, gents, is the bottom line. It looks like we're almost out of the stress on the home front, which will be nice. So yeah. 2 seconds. I just need to ban Edison from Discord and the channel. Show you how much it cheap. Okay. But yeah. So yeah. Bye. Atrox. Hello, welcome. What about the Idris being able to change out the size 5 missile launcher from another size 7 turret? Is that confirmed, Atrox, or is that just like on a wish list of I want these things? If he grabs the handcuffs, just run faster than him. If I grab the handcuffs, Edison, I promise they're not for you. Napa Complex says we get a tour of the Badger Den. It's going to have to be called something like that, but I'm just going to, because I pre-positioned the disc plate ready to go to see what people thought. I don't know how much of that is going to stand up, but what do we think? Basically, that's the. It's not going to play, is it? Let's do that instead. There we go. That's the display I went for. I went for the glossy one. That's a medium. Yeah, so I did it when there was a bit of a deal on. The only thing they didn't send me was they didn't send me the magnet that sticks to the back of it. I only got 2, and I should have got 3, because there's a large one downstairs, which I'm really, really pleased with. And I'll show you for why. But it is very much an archetypal British person's display. But this one is downstairs, and I was really, really chuffed with it. So this one is in large, comes in landscape with a frame on it. But what I went and got was this one. So this is the one that's downstairs. Upsettingly, as it turns out, this is also on a Battleship Grey wall. Napo helped me paint my room, paint my front room earlier on in the week, and pointed out that it was Battleship Grey, and now I hate him forever. But let's have a look. Yeah, but this is the one that I've got downstairs. So really, really nice. It's got the frame on it as well, which doesn't show up in the zoom, but it's a Spitfire and a Hurricane low over a poppy field at sunset. And yeah, absolutely beautiful. Yeah, because it's the downstairs. Like I've got a blue sofa, I've got grey, like a slate grey wall, and then slightly like grey blue, very light grey blue other walls, and there's nothing in the room that's red like that. So it just pops, it just stands out. But yeah, really, really chuffed with that. Atrox says, just wondering your thoughts. I don't know. I think the Idris is going to be very much horses for courses. I like the idea of the missile thing because it gives you something else to think about. Whereas potentially I can lock you up even when you're in the black spot of, somewhere where not a lot of turrets can see you, and still fire missiles at you and still force you to take evasive action. So I think there's definitely room for a missile turret on the Idris. To make people, because those size 5 missiles, they're going to do some real damage. So when light fighters manage to, or fighters manage to disable a turret or two that gives you a blind spot, you've got that missile turret to still provide cover for those areas. And size 5 missiles are no joke, and things are going to need to get out the way. You can't just tank that and go, yeah, I'll wear that, your arrow, your gladius. Not so much. So yeah, I think it's definitely something to them. But yeah, swapping out for a size 7 as well. That works too. Size 7 also no joke. I think a lot of that will depend on whether or not you've got the military kit on it. So whatever replaces the railgun, or if you've got a railgun or whatever. But yeah, an interesting idea. Maybe the Idris is something we'll look at a little closer once we start getting our hands on it in game. I suppose we could always go and have a look at the. Let's have a look at it now. Ship matrix. So how many has it got already? How many size 7 turrets is this thing rocking? Or is it just the 2? Is it just one turret with 2? I don't want the military one. I want the civilian one, though. The one that we can get our hands on. So it doesn't look like it's size 7. So it's got 2 turrets, two twin size 4s, 2 twin size 5s. Does that make sense? I guess it does. Oh, the M has one. Ah, gotcha. That makes more sense. Holy moly. Yeah, that's a little bit significant. Clink. So what's that then? That thing on the front, is that effectively what we're saying, or is that the missile turret? Just the scale difference between the Ares and the yeah, that's pretty redonkulous. That's terrifying, in fact. But yeah, nice. Ray Louderback asks, can you make your green screen the captain's quarters of a Perseus? Mate, once I get into the Perseus itself, I will get a picture of it and I will do just that. And then I will force X to let me have that on the info runners one as well. But yes, absolutely. And then Execute's background can be the screenshot of the explosion when my Perseus kills his Kraken. Lol. Yeah. Atrox, absolutely. You know, I mean, I feel like that is very spec'd out for big ship combat because it's got the chuffing railgun on the front. But no, I take your point entirely. You know, especially if you're going to operate with something like a Hammerhead that is dedicated small fighter defense, then yes, absolutely. And you just position the Hammerhead around the Idris in the position that most, you know, complements its defenses, then yes, absolutely. 100%. But yeah. Is it, Notorious LB says, give it to me now. Which bit, Notorious? So I take it we're still talking the Perseus, yeah? Or was that from the Idris? Because give it to me now while it's pointing its railgun at you. That could be interpreted in a number of ways. Some of them not good. Yeah, sorry if I look like I've been crying the whole stream. Whilst I am obviously an emotional guy, it's been really, really warm, and it turns out that I've got hay fever, which is not a fun realization at all. But yeah, so there's that. Yeah. Bum, bum, bum. Let's have a look. What else is on the? It's really weird because it won't let me close that. Why are you being rubbish? That's why. Yeah, because I don't think I think there's is there the image of the Perseus's bridge, right? That's a thing. But I don't think that's a Perseus. I know you can't see this at the minute. I'm just gonna. So you got the torpedo space. But wasn't there a stand-up location, like the interior of the bridge, and it shows that part of it is on raised platforms? Or am I thinking of another ship? Oh no, that was the Galaxy one, wasn't it? The Galaxy had the raised platforms. Anvil carrier, Drake destroyer. Yeah, Drake needs some sort of combat ship, which is just like with just kind of metal plates welded to it that just blow off like a blade of armor panels. But it was the Galaxy bridge? Ugh, of course. There we go. A Galaxy, of course, made by the same manufacturer. They're both RSI ships, but has a really, really nice concept for its bridge. I swear it was the Galaxy. Was it not the Galaxy? Am I going mad? Because it's not on the... There's that, and that, which is fine, and that, and but there doesn't seem to be a. Yeah, bizarre. Because I think one of the things I didn't like about the Perseus, and there is something I don't like about the Perseus, as much as I am talking, or could be talking treason here, is that I think from what I've seen, and I can't remember where I got this impression, but in the interior of the bridge has one seat forward and then 2 seats behind it. I think it might even be in the interior cutaway, right, in the brochure. Yeah. So F11. RSI Perseus. Here we are. Lovely. So, yeah. So when you go to the bridge, there you go. So you can see there that what you have is one seat forward and 2 seats behind it. Very much like the command station, and then the 2 control seats on the Carrack's top bridge, right? Don't like that. That doesn't make sense from a military perspective. What you would have is their 2 seats forward, right? And then your seat behind them and raised up. Because it gives you you're overseeing what they're doing, right? So you're able to monitor them in front of you, and that makes much more sense from a military standpoint. So yeah, something back, even with, and they've already got it on the Connie, right? Is the one that the seat that hangs down, yeah, is suspended from the ceiling as opposed to that pulls into a desk, something like that, where you could slide forward into position, but it gives you the ability then to oversee the 2 people in front of you. That's the bit that I don't like about the Perseus. Other than that, obviously, massive fan. But yeah, engineering behind. Captain straight in behind, really like that. And then you've got, what's that, crew quarters on the other side. I do like the layout a lot. I also really like that you have that walkway over the top of the cargo base. So you look down onto it, which is kind of cool. And then obviously you've got your torpedo and your upper turret. Very cool. Yeah. Just apply to CIG as a naval expert. Tell them how it's done. I've often toyed with the idea of sending them a CV and what I do, and what I've done, just to see if they would, use me as a consultant. I have a feeling that would probably stop me from being able to talk about certain things or at all on my channel, but I don't know. Maybe that would be a worthwhile trade-off. I'm not entirely sure. To actually be involved in the project would be pretty damn cool. But yeah, absolutely love that image as well. The 3 of these just turning in and making a mess of that lot. Yeah, so, because the other thing they'd say about the Perseus, obviously, is that it's got, they call it interchangeable ammo. And people say, well, that's just like ammo types. That's like HE and armor piercing and you know, all that sabot rounds and all that sort of stuff. I'm not entirely sure that's true, because why would you mention it? If it just does what everyone else does, why would you mention that it can do that? That doesn't really make sense to me. Surely what actually makes sense is the whole that it's that it is actually different. Let's go. I forget where it says it. It's in here somewhere. You'd think I would know this thing in and out, wouldn't you? But oops. Here you go. It's going to be in here somewhere. I forget where it is. But yeah, it's there somewhere. Someone will point it out to me, I'm sure. Retterburner says, could be they wanted the captain to have a better field of view, so they kept the centre seat forward more than it would have been otherwise. Also, design queue for RSI overall. Yeah, absolutely. Watching that ammo loader working is going to be sweet. Agree 100%. Nick says, like the lack of ground clearance on basically every ship and ground vehicle. Yeah, absolutely. I think the difference is this can switch on the fly where the others need to choose their ammo before. Surprised you haven't got the specs tattooed on your gonads, to be honest. Thanks, mate. That's a worrying thought. Yeah. No, so it's the exact wording of it, but it talks about the ammo or the weaponry being interchangeable, which or can be adapted on the fly or something like that, right? And that just to me sounds like a little bit more than just, oh, you can use different types of ammunition like everything else in the game. Because again, why would you mention it if everything in the game can do it? It's like, oh, you can reload this gun. I can reload everything. Like, what's that got to do with the price of fish, as it were? But yeah. Oh, I didn't want to download that, but yeah, great, thanks for that. Let's escape. Yeah, I don't know, but definitely a favoured ship of mine. It's something else, and I think for a lot of people, if I might just take the opportunity to speak for people when I probably shouldn't, it has all the traditional lines of an old warship, right? It's got the bow, a recognisable bow. It's got the turrets looking very much like turrets as they were. You know, twin turrets, not, you know, for tanks and things like that, just ridiculous, right? Unless you're talking much smaller caliber. But for warships, that was absolutely normal. You know, in fact, you'd have some up to 4 barrels in a single turret, and it just absolutely looks like what you'd want it to be. You know, central bridge position, somewhere, you know, precisely on the centre line, centre top as well, really helps with that impression. Yeah, just has all those lines that you would want, and very much looks like that sort of the convoy raiders. So the way that it worked during World War II is that your best defense against submarines was to put ships in groups and then to attach a bunch of escorts to that, right? And there was the key reason for that was to have that many ships in a group. It means that you needed to concentrate your U-boats in a location so that it was almost like running the gauntlet, right? So that when the convoy came through, there's no point in having all your U-boats spread out, because that's the point in the ocean that the convoy's at. So you wanted your U-boats to work together. That's why we had the term wolf packs for groups of U-boats. The problem with that is getting in the right location to stop a convoy. So you're increasing their survivability because maybe they're not detected. Or when they are, they're not able to intercept. And what I mean by that is that submarines on the surface obviously could move much faster than dived submarines at that time in history. But on the surface, you were absolutely no match for destroyers, right? Who had multiple turrets. Each one had more guns of a caliber the same size or larger than yours, who spent all their time practicing surface gunnery, even things like, putting holes in the ship. So even things like the anti-aircraft guns against a submarine cause so much damage that, you just then wouldn't dive the submarine and the submarine becomes useless. Underwater, where the submarine does most of its damage, it needs to be ahead of the fleet because it could only do 8 to 10 knots dived. And even then, diesel submarines could only spend a certain amount of time submerged before they needed to come up. They needed to do something called snorkel, which is they needed to recharge the diesel batteries. They needed to pull oxygen in and release the waste gas, which appeared as smoke. So a submarine near the surface doing this was easily spotted from the air or the surface because you get this plume of smoke. So to force them all to dive, they need to be ahead of you. You run through them and provide them basically as much protection from the escorts as you can, just driving stuff below with depth charges, keeping it out the way, doing zigzag plans where all the ships were altering to throw off their firing solutions, and so on and so forth. Enter this, or its World War II equivalent, which is the convoy, the commerce raiders, things like Tirpitz, Bismarck, the Graf Spee, those sorts of ships, where a convoy was their ultimate hunting ground, because the destroyers had nothing that could threaten ships of that size, and even with their own torpedoes had to get so close against very practiced German gunnery that it was a death sentence for the destroyer. Because you've got all these ships close in, the gunnery, they just have at it for days. They could easily outrun the transports. These things could do 28, 30 knots, the new ones. That's where this comes in, right? You want to put this in and amongst a convoy, preferably with a ship that stops them getting out of their normal combat master mode. And this thing will just destroy stuff. Torpedoes, turrets. You can assign each turret a different target. You hit a third target with torps. Deadly. And I think this is what I see the strength of the Perseus being. Just utterly deadly ship. Shady Face says, it sounds like it has a system that lets you change types on the fly. Agreed. Maybe you just magnetically or electrically charge a shell and it acts more like an EMP thing, so you lose the ballistic properties because the shield, now that it's electrically charged, will definitely stop it, but it causes more damage to shields. Maybe that would be a very simple way of doing things. Edison says, I think it's better ships for a lot of people as the Polaris due to the low crew number. Yeah, having 6 in this. And let's face it, if you wanted everything manned and you were happy to lose the engineer, there's 5. If you're going to blade your turrets, it's 3. That's not a lot of people at all to crew something with that much firepower. Notorious says, only thing it's missing is a figurehead and a great cabin. Yeah, absolutely. Something at the back with the lanterns on would be awesome. Edison says, until we get an Anvil Corvette or an Aegis or a Drake Corvette, there's nothing that competes against the Polaris, possibly. It's just weird that we only have one Corvette. Yeah, I think, given the fact that we've just had what's the act called where they could suddenly, is it not the one that enables militias to have military spec ships? I think if you take that law into account, it's probably a little bit more understandable that we don't have really, really, really big ships. World War II subs lost the initiative once they dived. 17 knots surface speed drops to a maximum of 7 knots. Yeah, absolutely. Colony sizing up, need to be very careful for Perseus. Yeah, absolutely. Shady Face says, I think it's more of loading the magazine system with what ammo you want. Yeah, the things with auto loaders, of course, is that an auto loader will load a pack of ammunition. So it'll go, for example, it'll load 6 shells, and they'll all be of the same type. But then your next 6 can be another type, and it will just, you just manually select whatever. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Rather than Edison, I don't know if you meant to put that in chat. I feel like, did that need to go into an X-rated search engine? Melissa something? I don't know. That doesn't look right. It looks like you meant to type that into to Thingy Hub, mate, not YouTube. But sorry, I had to get you back for earlier. So there. But yeah. So that's that. Oh, you spelled it wrong. I take it you're trying to talk about immobilization or something. Sorry, dude. Yeah, I'm not quite understanding what's going on there, mate. But yeah. Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Edison, for that. Good spot, mate. But yeah, so if you haven't already, and you're the camera moved and I just bounced around the screen, it's great. Oh no, it's not going to do that one. Fine, be like that. See if I can. What if I did? This is like camera surfing or something. Oh, I've confused you now because now you put me too far the other way. Oh, and now you've just gone blurry just because sod me, right? Thanks. Oh, sorry. Militia Mobilization Initiative. Yes, exactly that. That's exactly what it was. So the idea that we're not supposed to normally get our hands on military spec kit might explain why there's corvettes that or gaps where we would expect to be able to get our hands on certain types of ships. But yeah. So, if you haven't already, down in the description, there's a link to the community Discord. Pop on, let me know that you're in, and I will give you all the relevant permissions. Still intending to reorganize it. I've just not gotten around to any of that sort of stuff yet. But there will be, in the very near future, a sudden drive in that direction for all that sort of stuff. Like I said, this week, unfortunately, there's just been a lot of me painting on school nights. And honestly, by the time I finished that, I'm just hacked off with life and wanted to go to bed. So we'll get that done. Yeah, as he plays with the camera. Yeah, I'm just getting the camera to chase me around the screen just to see if it's done it again. Look, stop it. There we go. Superb. But yeah, looking forward to being able to give you a tour of the Badger Den, the man cave, as it were. Looking forward to getting to chat with some of you on Discord, and if you see us in there, by all means, just pop in, have a chat. That's why I sit there and wait around for people and stuff. So do not feel that you're intruding on anything. That's the whole reason there. If you can see me in a room and you can get into that room, that's because I'm there to chat. There are super secret ones that you can't see, so if I don't want people chatting with people, that's where I'll be. All right? But yeah, it's been fun discussing this with you guys. Hopefully we come to a little bit of an answer on scope creep, and I think scope creep, just to rehash that, is perspective. Hopefully they are talking about features that they want after they've implemented the core game, and that is what we would consider a released version, and everything else is content to be added. That's where scope creep is good. If they are just chasing rainbows with this, and this is a really good idea, that's a really good idea, this is a really good idea, and they don't have a clear vision of what they want at launch, then this is scope creep in the worst possible way. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because there was something about animals and swarms and flocks, and I just felt like that was a little bit silly at this point. But yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you all. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.